The President of the United States has taken on the FBI. He's demanding answers as an FBI agent is pulled from the Mueller probe after he was caught sending anti-Trump and pro-Hillary texts.
When you see the lead investigator in both of those was a partisan for Hillary and was anti-Trump, it undercuts the legitimacy of both of those investigations.
There's documentary evidence that this guy's been involved in everything. They all laughed at us for saying deep state stuff, and it looks like it's real.
Congress getting back to work on tax reform after passing the biggest cuts to your taxes in decades.
We are at the 10-yard line. We are on the way.
What we've got is a situation where this economy is going to grow.
The NFL's multi-million-dollar donation aimed at stopping anthem protests isn't going very well. At least 25 players either sitting, kneeling, or raising a fist on Sunday.
President Obama has been out of office for almost a year, but his apology tour continues.
I grant you that at the moment we have a temporary absence of American leadership.
Carriage ride in Central Park, we added a few horses. We want to get you there a little bit quicker.
And a few beers.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the world-famous Clydesdales. They are launching a nationwide tour to kick off the holiday season with a stop right here on our plaza at Fox and Friends. Those are beautiful, majestic animals. We saw them last year out during the debates in St. Louis. At the HQ. They're really something.
And by the way, every Christmas season, Steve's being a little bit humble, but that's how you get to work during Christmas. After they light the tree, that's what you demand. I say, I'm happy with a sedan car. Right.
Look who's with us today. Ainsley is off. She'll be back tomorrow. And we got Rachel Campos-Duffy.
Thanks for having me.
And then you got to go. You have a ball to go to tomorrow night, and you have a family to raise.
And I have a family to raise. Yep.
Right.
And now you've convinced me to get a dog too.
I did. I told
like I didn't have enough with 8 kids.
You have 8 kids and you're worried about adding a dog as if it's gonna, like the top's gonna blow up the house.
Wait until after Christmas because the kids can pull down the Christmas tree, whereas when you have a brand new puppy, the puppy will pull down the tree.
Listen, if I get a dog, it will not be a puppy. It will be potty trained. There's enough poop in my life.
There's enough poop in my life. All right, words.
All right, let's talk about
bite of the day.
Right, all right. Let's talk about what's happened over the weekend. You know about Friday and when Mike Flynn cut the deal in order to get a reduced sentence and talk about admitting that he lied to the FBI. People are talking about, okay, what about this probe? How clean is it? And what can we expect an honest investigation? And then this revelation comes forward. Not only were people wondering about the links with Patrick McCabe, who was the former acting director and deputy director of the FBI because his wife was a contributor to Governor Terry McAuliffe.
He was running for Congress as a Democrat.
Right. People worried about that. Now all of a sudden we find out one of the lead investigators has been removed from this case because it just so happens he has anti-Trump, pro-Hillary texts.
Well, this particular guy was one of the main guys. He was big.
No, not a small player at all.
No. He was there for the interview of Hillary Clinton over the 4th of July weekend, which ultimately exonerated her. He was in charge of figuring out whether she had intent to break the law. Oh, nope, she didn't, he said. But then we discovered that he apparently was having an extramarital affair with an FBI lawyer, and the Inspector General of the Department of Justice has revealed some of the information, and he had the anti-Trump, pro-Hillary text.
I mean, just imagine, you're the President of the United States. Your entire, presidency thus far has had this cloud over it. And you find out that the people leading the investigation, the lead investigator, is an anti-Trump, pro-Hillary person, and so this is why he's been tweeting about this.
And as I mentioned before, I mean, it's hard to believe that he is sat in the lunchroom by himself.
Right.
It's hard to believe that he never interacted with other people.
He's
that
one
he was
of the
just
lead guys. That's what's troubling. And then you look at some of the things.
But there are others.
Mr. Comey has said, and you look at Mr. Mueller as well. Kellyanne Conway says these FBI probes have clearly had a left-leaning tilt to them. Listen to this.
It's so disturbing and troubling because you're right. He was at the heart of the investigation into Hillary Clinton. We know that she lied numerous times. We know that she bleach bitted and deleted 33,000 emails. We know that a lot of America, a majority of Americans in all polling, said that she was neither honest or trustworthy. It's part of why she lost. And yet you do hear people constantly asking, when will she be held to account? I know she's got a pretty bad fate of not working and living behind me here. But this is what frustrates people. And now this revelation that a decidedly, definitively anti-Trump FBI investigator was involved in the Hillary Clinton interviews, as the president says, is now starting to make a lot of sense.
And now we're going to find out what he's going to say to the House Intelligence Committee. And hopefully there won't be a leak. They'll be able to just say, this is what we found out. Devin Nunes said, I want to see McCabe, and I want to see Stroke, and I want to see them in front of us. I'm going to drop paperwork to make you give him up. After all, Chris Wray is in charge of the FBI, appointed by President Trump. What's the problem? Well, after these revelations on Devin Nunes' aggression, now they're finally going to go up and going to speak. Now, will they answer all the questions?
That's a great point, because I wouldn't be surprised if they plead the fifth. Keep in mind, this Mr. Stroke guy didn't get fired, which, you know, some people would say, you can't do that, what you did. But instead, they put him in the personnel department. Yeah. He's now at HR, so he's still working for the FBI.
But definitely demoted. I mean, definitely demoted.
Absolutely, but they're keeping him in place for a variety of reasons.
But I think the big question is, okay, so they interview Peter Stroke and whoever else might have had a bias there, but what happens to the investigations that they've, you know, closed or passed on Hillary Clinton? Sure. We know she deleted emails. We know she, you know, did a bleach bit on her cell phone. There was an actual crime there that they just said, well, you know, we're not going to do
no
anything.
Intent.
No intent.
When you look at this, though, it's like there was a partisan as the referee. Maybe they should reopen it. Maybe they should examine it, given the fact that it looks as if he was a Trump hater. Not
that I want your head to explode with complications, but I happen to believe that he was also involved, possibly, in recommending that the Fusion GPS dossier be used as an investigation tool into the Trump campaign, which, by the way, is an opposition research job hired by the Democratic National Committee in Hillary Clinton's campaign, which, by the way, was one and the same because they had to do everything through Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Right. Plus,
so is he using the dossier to investigate Donald Trump, which has not even been proven any of it correct?
One other thing about this guy, it sounds like he was also involved in looking, remember the smoking gun at the end of the campaign was the laptop, the Anthony Weiner laptop.
Yes.
He's the one who cleared the laptop in record time.
Right. And don't forget, back to the dossier, which I think is very important because it really spearheaded all of this, really opened up this investigation. A lot of people are wondering if he was the FBI agent who leaked the meeting between Comey and the president, which gave the press really the permission to start talking about this dossier, which they didn't until that happened.
And do you think he's actually going to say, oh, yeah, that was me. Oh, yeah, that was me. Oh, yeah, it was my idea.
We'll never know. And I think this really makes the case for the president who's saying, this has been rigged. I've been treated differently than Hillary Clinton. And this was an investigation in search of a crime. And so I think that, you know, this is an interesting weekend for the president. He is definitely discrediting the FBI. I know that you're upset, Brian, that it sort of
has
paints all of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's bigger than that. But still, I think this makes his case for him.
All right. Meanwhile, on Friday morning, our big story was the fact that the illegal alien who killed Kate Steinle was not found guilty of murder, not even manslaughter. And now, given the fact that it was a sanctuary city and San Francisco did not release him back to the ICE people, even though they were waiting for him, there's a congressman from the great state of Indiana who wants to take aim at the sanctuary cities, and in particular the lawmakers, and hold them criminally responsible when bad things happen, up to the extent of $1 million fine and up to 5 years in jail.
So the mayor in a major city that has a sanctuary city that allows illegal criminals to stay there and illegals to be there could go to jail? That's what they're looking at if the SLAPP Act is?
Or face a fine.
Right.
$1 million.
Man, oh, man. Tom Homan, the guy who is the acting director of ICE right now, had this to say about when he heard the Steinle verdict and the impact of sanctuary cities on this nation.
This sickened me. This isn't the America I grew up in. For a city to knowingly release a public safety threat back into the public is just ridiculous. Sanctuary cities, they're suing the Department of Justice to get their funding from the federal government. So they want to fund sanctuary cities to keep illegal aliens in, but they don't want to fund a border wall to keep them out. To me, that's backwards.
This particular congressman also supported Kate's Law, which did pass the House. I'm sure your husband voted for it, but it is waiting for the Senate to act on it.
Meanwhile, 9 minutes after the hour, I'm waiting for Jillian to act on the fact that we tasked you with finding the latest breaking news.
And you know what? I did find that.
Did you
act? A couple times this morning. I acted, yes, and I have some more for you right now. So let's get to this Fox News alert because we do have some serious news here to report. President Trump now throwing his full support behind Alabama GOP Senate candidate Roy Moore ahead of next Tuesday's special election. The president tweeting, quote, "Democrats' refusal to give even one vote for massive tax cuts is why we need Republican Roy Moore to win in Alabama. We need his vote on stopping crime, illegal immigration, border wall, military, pro-life, VA, judges' Second Amendment, and more. No to Jones, a Pelosi-Schumer puppet." The president's endorsement comes as Moore faces numerous allegations of sexual misconduct from decades ago. Also breaking right now, brand new video of the U.S. and South Korea kicking off their largest ever joint air exercise as tensions reach a boiling point with North Korea. More than 230 fighter jets and nearly 12,000 U.S. military personnel will take part in the 5-day effort known as Vigilant Ace. The joint drill comes just 1 week after North Korea tested its most advanced missile that may be capable of hitting anywhere in the U.S. Embattled Congresswoman Corinne Brown will learn her fate today. The former Democratic representative from Florida was convicted of 18 federal fraud and conspiracy charges in May after using a fake charity for poor students as a personal slush fund. The group received about $800,000 worth of donations. The 71-year-old faces 20 years in prison for each conspiracy charge and 3 for every tax conviction. The children of a fallen officer who was shot dead in an ambush attack get the ultimate Christmas present, a brand new home. NYPD officer Mia Sota's familia was gunned down in the Bronx while sitting in a marked car back in July, leaving behind 3 kids. Her oldest daughter joined us on the show shortly after losing her mother.
We're taking it day by day, and of course there is, the waves of emotion that come up when, when the reality starts to settle in that we won't see her again.
Tunnel to Towers Foundation helping to raise nearly $900,000 to buy a 3-bedroom apartment for the kids. They plan to move in by Christmas. How amazing is that, to be able to give them that amazing gift?
That organization's gotten so beyond 9/11. Now it's everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
We understand the children are going to come on the program in the next couple of weeks to tell us about the new house.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Jillian, thank you.
All right, meanwhile, 12 minutes after the hour, we've been discussing this.
ABC News has suspended Brian Ross for his botched report on Michael Flynn, but is mainstream media ready to turn over a new leaf? Our next guest says, not so fast.
And it's the question every hardworking American wants the answer to. Will tax cuts come for Christmas, and will they help me? We're going to ask the House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, who always seems to be in a good mood. Am I right?
Yeah. ABC News investigative correspondent Brian Ross suspended without pay over his botched report on Michael Flynn.
In a statement, ABC says, quote, "We deeply regret and apologize for the serious error we made yesterday. The reporting conveyed by Brian Ross during the special report had not been fully vetted through our editorial standards process." Is the mainstream media ready to turn over a new leaf? Let's talk to Fox News contributor and senior editor of the Federalist, that is to say, Molly Hemingway. Molly, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Okay, so this guy comes out with a story that's not true, tanked the market. And it would be one thing if he does not have a record of having some big mistakes. But I famously remember after the Aurora theater shooting, he's the one who connected the shooter as being somebody who backed the Tea Party.
Right. So Brian Ross has been punished by getting to take the entire month of December off for having this false story, a big mess up on a big story, tanking the market, not doing a good job with a clarification, having trouble actually admitting that it was a full retraction. And just like you said, this is not the first time. I mean, Brian Ross has a history of making pretty serious mistakes. There's the Tea Party incident where he blamed a Tea Partier for the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting. Right. He also said that Saddam Hussein was responsible for the anthrax in Washington, D.C. after 9/11. Even after he was told, he was told before he went to air with that was not a true story. He also was involved in another bad story about Toyota's accelerating. So he has this history, and it's not just that these bad stories affect people's lives or they cause the stock market to tank. They also really affect media credibility, and that's why he and his organization should be far more careful.
Right, and ABC did apologize. They issued an apology. They gave him that suspension. But my question to you is, are they really holding themselves accountable, or are they actually being held accountable by the tweets that the president's been putting out with his very powerful social media platform?
Well, they're certainly not being held accountable so much by many other media figures. Like Politico had a story headlined, "Conservatives skewer ABC News for faulty Flynn report." Well, it shouldn't just be conservatives who are upset with fake news. Everybody should be upset. If anybody, Trump critics should be the most upset because that totally plays into his hands about the problems with media credibility.